So with chapter 15, we get to numbers. And numbers in Latin are interesting in that they only decline the first three numbers, 1, 2, and 3. 1 you already know or you've come across. 2 is listed in chapter 15, and duo, dui, duo. This is masculine, feminine, neuter. Duorum, duarum, duorum, duabus, 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 duos, duas, duo, because the nominative and the accusative are always the same, and duabus, duabus, duabus. Now you may be saying, wait a minute, looks like the plural. That's correct. What is the singular of 2? It's a trick question. There is no singular of 2. So 2 looks like this. 3, so it looks like a hybrid between the first conjugation, second conjugation. It definitely has that orum, arum, orum, but it's got that weird obus, obus, obus in there. 3 is like a third declension noun. Trace, trium, tribus, trace, tribus, and this is your masculine or feminine. And in the plural, it's tria, trium, tribus. Tria is in the neuter, the accusative, tria. And tribus, this looks like something you're more familiar with. It does have the IA in the nominative and accusative, but I think this is a little more familiar. And the last word that you have here is thousand. And thousand is interesting because in the singular, like 1,000 is mille, 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 mille. How's that? And in the plural, millia, miliarum, milibus, milia, and milibus. I was right and wrong. Milibus. So in the singular, it's not declined, and in the plural, it looks like looks a lot like tria. Actually, it looks a lot like 3. So it is the word for thousand. And now the rest of the numbers. So 1, 2, and 3 are declined, but 4, quatuor, 5, quinque, 6, sex, 7, septem, 8, octo, 9, noem, and number 10, decem. They are not declined ever. They're the same in nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative. Why did I stumble there on noem? Because this is September, October, November, December. These are your months. How's that for original? 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are the months. And the reason, wait a minute, December is the 12th, started in March. So September is the 7th month, October is the 8th, November is the 9th, December is the 10th month. Very, very complicated. But these are your numbers. I would encourage you to go a little bit further. They do indicate them. I think it's very interesting when you get to duo de viginti. That's 2 away from 20, that's 18. And 1 down from 20 is 19. So I do enjoy how they do 18 and 19. But there's not a lot to learn about numbers, and I'm certainly not going to require you to learn them above, 20. It just doesn't come up that often, and it just isn't an issue. And I don't think it's particularly complicated. The next concept, though, is this brings us to the genitive of the whole. and it's the genitive, or sometimes called the partitive genitive, because I will have 7 of those. I will have 8 of those. Part of the city. They use the genitive just like we do. I will have some of the books. I have done some of my homework. So the genitive of the whole, Wheelock spends very little time talking about, as will I, because it isn't terribly complicated, because they translate it just like us. The next thing is your ablative of time when. Ablative of time when, and that is different from your time within which. Ablative, I should write it out. Ablative of time within which. So, when are you going to do it? Or when did you do that? I did it at that time. You could say illo tempore. There's no word, in other words, there is no word for at. Doesn't exist. At that time doesn't exist. They just put it in the ablative. I am going to do it in a few hours. Paucis horis. The word for within, in a few hours or within a few hours, they do not use. They just put it in the ablative. So you see in this chapter there are some that appear to be disjointed things. There's 4 things in this chapter. Number 1, the numbers. Number 2, the genitive. Number 3 and 4, the ablative of time when, ablative of time within which. But really they're all connected and they all come into play when we start using numbers, because you can't talk about the genitive of the whole unless you start talking about 7. For example, 7 of them or some of them. So despite the fact there's different things, they're very connected and not terribly problematic. I would not call this a game changer chapter. So let me know if you have questions. Thanks.